Angkor Wat. Angkor Wat is a unique combination of the Temple Mountain, the standard design for the Empire State Temples, and the later blend of concentric galleries, most of which were derived from the religious beliefs of Hinduism originally. The construction of Angkor Wat also suggests that there was a celestial significance with certain features of the temple. This is observed in the temple's east-west orientation and lines of sight from terraces within the temple that show specific towers to be at the precise location of the sunrise on its solstice. The temple is a representation of Mount Meru, the home of the gods according to the Hindu mythology. The central quinquance of towers symbolize the 5 peaks of the mountain, and the walls and moats symbolize the surrounding mountain range and ocean. Access to the upper areas of the temple was progressively more exclusive, with the laity being admitted only to the lowest level. The Angkor Wat Temple's main tower lies to the morning sun of the spring equinox. Unlike most Khmer temples, Angkor Wat is oriented to the west rather than the east. This has led many, including Maurice Glaze and Charles Godels, to conclude that Surya Varman intended it to serve as his funerary temple. Further evidence for this view is provided by the bas-reliefs, which proceed in the counterclockwise direction, Prasaya in Hindu terminology. As this is the reverse of the normal order, rituals take place in reverse order during the Brahminic funeral service. Archaeologist Charles Hickam also described a container which may have been a funerary jar, which was recovered from the central tower. It has been nominated by some as the greatest expenditure of energy on disposal of corpses, freemen and jackals. However, note that several other temples of Angkor depart from the typical Eastern orientation and suggest that Angkor Wat's alignment was due to its dedication to Vishnu, who was associated with the West. Drawing on the temple's alignment and dimensions, and on the content and arrangements of the bas-reliefs, Register Eleanor Manica argues that the structure represents a grand new era of peace under King Surya Varman II, as the measurements of solar and lunar time cycles were built into subspace of Angkor Wat. This divine mandate to rule was anchored to consecrated chambers and corridors meant to perpetuate the king's power and to honor and placate the deities manifest in the heavens above. Manica's suggestions have been received with a mixture of interest and skepticism in academic circles. She distances herself from the speculations of others, such as Graham Hancock, that Angkor Wat is part of a representation of the constellation Draco. Angkor Wat is a prime example of the classical style of the Khmer architecture, the Angkor Wat style to which it has given its name. By the 12th century, Khmer architects had become skilled and confident in the use of sandstones rather than brick or laterite as a main building material. Most of the visible areas are of sandstone blocks, while laterite was used for the outer wall and for hidden structural parts. The binding agent used to join the blocks is yet to be identified, although natural resin or slag glam has been suggested. The temple has long principles of all the harmony of its design. According to Maurice Glaze, a mid-strength designer, conservator of Angkor, the temple attains a classic perfection by the restrained monumentality of its finely balanced elements and the precise arrangement of its proportions. It is a work of power, unity, and style. Architecturally, the elements characteristic of the style include the ogival, redundant towers shaped like lotus buds, half galleries to broaden passageways, arches, galleries connecting enclosures, and the cruciform turrets which appear along the main axis of the temple. Typical decorative elements are devatas or apsaras, bas-reliefs, and on pediments, extensive garlands, and narrative scenes. The statuary of the Angkor Wat is considered conservative, being more static and less graceful than earlier work. Other elements of the design have been destroyed by lifting in the passage of the time, including glided stucco on the towers, lining on some figures on the bas-reliefs, and wooden ceiling panels and doors. The outer wall, 1024 mara by 802 mara and 4.5 mara high, is surrounded by a 30 mara apron of open ground and more 190 mara wide and over 5 kilometers in perimeter. The more extended 1.5 kilometers from the east to the west and 1.3 kilometers from north to south. Access to the temple is by an earth bank to the east and sandstone causeway to the west. The latter, the main entrance, is a later addition, partially preparation, a wooden bridge that incorporates at each of the cardinal points. The western is by far the largest and has 3 ruined towers. Glaze notes that these incorporate both heights and echoes from the form of the temple proper. Under the southern tower is a statue known as the bridge, originally an 8-armed statue of Vishnu, may have occupied the temple's central shrine. Galleries run between the towers and as far as 2 further entrances on either side of the Angkor, often referred to as elephant gates, as they are large enough to admit those animals. These galleries have square pillars on the outer west side and closed walls on the inner east side. The ceiling between the pillars is decorated with lotus roses. The west face of the wall with dancing figures, and the east face of the wall with baluster with those dancing mouth figures on branching animals and devatas, including south of the entrance, the only one in the temple to be showing her teeth. The outer wall encloses a space of 120,000 square meters, which besides the temple proper was originally occupied by the city, and to the north of the temple, the royal palace. Like all circular buildings of Angkor, these were built of perishable materials rather than of stone, so nothing remains of them except the outlines of some of the streets. Most of the area is now covered by the forest. A 350-mile causeway connects the western Khmer to the temple proper, with Naga balustrades and 6 sets of steps leading down to the city on either side. Its site also features a library with the entrance at each cardinal point in front of the third set of stairs from the entrance, and the pond between library and temple itself. The ponds are later additions to the design, and is the cruciform terrace guarded by the lions connecting the causeway to the central structure. The temple stands on a terrace raised higher than the city. It is made of 3 rectangular galleries rising to the central tower, its level higher than the last. The 2 inner galleries each have 4 large towers at their ordinal corners. Surrounding the higher 5th tower, this pattern is sometimes called a quincunx and represents the mountains of Meru. Because the temple faces west, the features are all set back towards to the east, leaving more space to be filled in each enclosure and gallery on the west side. For the same reason, the west-facing steps are shallower than those on the other sides. Manika interprets the galleries as being dedicated to the king, Brahma, the moon, and Vishnu. Its gallery has a gopura at each of the points. The outer galleries measure 187 mara by 250 mara, with pavilions dotted the towers at the corners. The gallery is open to the outside of the temple. We call them half galleries standing and contrasting the structure. Connecting the outer gallery to the second enclosure on the west side is a cruciform cloister called Breakbone, meaning the Thousand Buddhas Gallery. Buddha images were left in the cloister by pilgrims over the centuries, although most have now been removed. This area has many inscriptions relating to good deeds of pilgrims, most written in Khmer but others in Burmese and Japanese. The 4 small courtyards marked out by the cloister may originally have been filled with water. North and south of the cloister are libraries. Beyond, the second and inner galleries are connected to each other, and the 2 flanking galleries by another cruciform terrace, again a later addition. From a second level, of course, devotees are bound on the walls singly or in groups of up to 4. The second level encloses is 100 mara by 115 mara and may originally have been flooded to represent the ocean around the Mount Meru. 3 sets of the steps on each side lead up to the corner towers and gopuras of the inner gallery. The very steep stairways represent the difficulty of ascending to the kingdom of God. This inner gallery, called the Bakan, is a 60-mile square with the axial galleries connecting each gopura with the central shrine and subsidiary shrine located below the corner towers. The roofings of the galleries are decorated with the motif of the body of a snake ending in the heads of lions or garudas. Carved lintels and pediments decorate the entrance to the galleries and to the shrine. The tower above the central shrine rises 43 mara to a height of 65 mara above the ground. Unlike those of previous temple mountains, the central tower is raised above the surrounding floor. The shrine itself, originally occupied by a statue of Vishnu and open on its side, was walled in when the temple was converted to Theravada Buddhism. The new walls featuring standing Buddhas. In year 1934, the conservator George Tove excavated the pit beneath the central shrine. Filled with the sand and water, it had already been robbed of its treasure, but he did find a sharp foundation deposit of gold leaf 2 miles above the ground level. Integrated with the architecture of the building, and one of the causes of its fame is Angkor's extensive decoration, which predominantly takes the form of the bas-relief. The inner walls of the outer gallery bear a series of large-scale scenes, mainly depicting episodes from the Hindu epics, the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. Hayam has called this the greatest known linear arrangement of stone carving. From the northwest corner anti-clockwise, the western gallery shows the Battle of Lanka. From the Ramayana, in which Rama defeats Ravana, and the Battle of Kurukshetra from the Mahabharata, showing the mutual annihilation of the Kaurava and Pandava clans. On the southern gallery follow the only historical scene, a procession of Sri Yavaman II, then the 32 houses and 37 heavens of Hinduism. On the eastern gallery is one of the most celebrated scenes, the churning of the Sea of Milk, showing 92 asuras and 88 devas using the serpent Vasuki to churn the sea under Vishnu's direction. Manika counts only 91 asuras and explains the asymmetrical numbers as representing the numbers of the days from the winter solstice to the spring equinox, and from the equinox to the summer solstice. It is followed by Vishnu defeating Asuras, a 16th century addition. The northern gallery shows Krishna's victory over Bana, where according to the place, the workmanship is at its worst. Angkor is decorated with the depiction of Apsaras and Devata. There are more than 1,796 depictions of Devata in the present research inventory. Angkor architects employ small Apsara images, 30 to 40 cm or 12 to 16 inches, as decorative motifs on pillars and walls. They incorporated larger Devata images or full-body portraits measuring approximately 95 to 110 cm. More prominently at every level of the temple, from the entry pavilion to the tops of the high towers. In year 1927, Safo Macha published a study cataloging the remarkable diversity of the art. Headdresses, garments, dance, jewelry, and decorative flowers, which Macha concluded were based on actual practices of the Angkor period. The monument was made of 5 to 10 million sandstone blocks with a maximum weight of 1.5 tons each. The entire city of Angkor used far greater amounts of stone than all the Egyptian pyramids combined, and occupied an area significantly greater than modern-day Paris. Moreover, unlike the Egyptian pyramids which used limestone quarried barely 0.5 km away all the time, the entire city of the Angkor was built with sandstone quarried 40 km away. This sandstone had to be transported from Mount Kulen, a quarry approximately 40 km northeast. The route has been suggested to span 35 kilometers along a canal towards Tonle Sap Lake, another 35 kilometers crossing the lake, and finally 15 kilometers against the current along Siem Reap River, making a total journey of 90 kilometers. However, Asho Uchida and Ichita Shimoda of Waseda University in Tokyo, Japan have discovered in year 2011 a shorter 35-kilometer canal connecting Mount Kulen and Angkor using satellite imagery. The two believe that the Khmer used this route instead. Virtually of all its surface, columns, lintels, and even roofs are carved. There are kilometers of reliefs illustrating scenes from Indian literature, including unicorns, griffins, winged dragons pulling the carrot, as well as warriors following an elephant-mounted leader, and celestial dancing girls with elaborate hairstyles. The gallery wall alone is decorated with almost 1,000 square meters of bas-reliefs. Holes on some of the Angkor walls indicates that they may have been decorated with bronze sheaths. These were highly prized in ancient times and